But do you look back and wonder, wow, look at all the success I've attained, though?
Definitely. I mean, that's a blessing. But again, by attaining success, I've gone through a lot of turmoil and a lot of devastation, a lot of problems, but it made me stronger. You have to keep reinventing yourself in order to stay on top. And I know that whether I sell one record or a million records on the next album, at least, you know, I was a voice. At least I think I served my purpose and made my mark in the industry.
In a 2019 article for The Spool, Aisha Staggers defined the three archetypes of women in blaxploitation films as the heroine, the honey, and the harlot, or for short.
She's called Turnpike because you gotta pay to get on and pay to get off.
The heroine embodies a complex and often contradictory character. She is a strong, capable, and independent woman who takes on challenging roles and demonstrates remarkable skills in combat and resilience. In a sense, she's Superwoman in black female form. However, ironically, her portrayal often includes elements that reflect traditional and submissive female stereotypes. She never talks back to her man, she's always available, and she's beautiful but not necessarily sexy. The honey, on the other hand, is typically portrayed as a supportive, educated, and often demure female character. This archetype often serves as a contrast to the more overtly sexual or aggressive female characters in the genre. She is the girlfriend or wife who stands by her man, offering emotional support and stability but not much else. And the harlot. Well, isn't it obvious? The harlot is typically portrayed as a woman who uses her sexuality to achieve her goal. She may be seen as manipulative, cunning, and sometimes tragic, embodying the struggles and exploitation faced by women in a patriarchal and racially biased society. But there was one woman in the blaxploitation era who embodied all of these things.
When Foxy Brown comes to town, all the brothers gather round, 'cause she can really shake 'em down.
In 2018, Vice described Foxy Brown as an icon of black female empowerment. She was strong, sexy, outspoken, funny, and far superior to her seedy male counterparts. Foxy Brown hit the silver screen in 1974, starring the iconic Pam Grier. The film followed the normal trend in blaxploitation cinema of that era, with a storyline centered on a black protagonist, seeking vengeance and ultimately triumphing over adversity. But unlike most films of the time, it featured a powerful female lead, and she was human.
And the movies you starred in have been called Superwoman movie.
No, they say Superwoman. I think they get me confused with, they think I've been in Cleopatra Jones and some of these Superwoman films, but I'm not. I get out of situations on my own. I'm always getting beaten up or something happens to me. I take the licks, you know, I get hurt. But it's a young woman who is able to get out of a situation on her own, use her instincts. And if she grows up in a black, partial, ghetto, she has to survive.
Inga DeCarlo Fung Marchand was not born in 1974 when Foxy Brown first hit theaters. She would arrive 3.5 years later in Brooklyn, New York on September 6, 1978. Inga's mother, Judith, was a preschool teacher and the cousin of Grammy-winning jazz musician Marcus Miller. Her father, Keith, was a welder. Both of her parents were immigrants from Trinidad and Tobago, and they initially provided a stable, two-parent household. However, when Inga was just 4 years old, her father left, leaving Judith to raise Inga and her two older brothers on her own.
No, but your dad is your dad for a little girl.
Right.
Is your king. He's the one who tells you that you are a princess, you are beautiful. He trains you to know that a man should open the car door for you. All the guys that when I look back and we were talking, my little sister and I were talking about, my god sister and I were talking about the guys that we've dated and we've been with, and I was just like, oh, I picked some like real like crazy ones, but it was because my father, it was like a rebellion, like my pop, like you just left for me to find out from these dudes like how to be treated.
Inga's family was solidly middle class, and she attended one of the best schools in the borough, Brooklyn College Academy. Inga often asserts that she did not grow up in the hood, but she was undeniably drawn to it. By the age of 14, she started skipping school to hang out on the block. It was during this time, barely out of junior high, that she met Jack Agnant, better known as Haitian Jack. Jack was a well-known street figure who had made a name for himself in the city, and he was significantly older than Inga. Inga said, "I met him in East New York. I just knew of the legend of Haitian Jack. He took me to Jacob's the first time we met. I started out early, and once a good girl's gone bad, she's gone forever."
Well, my personal life, I never, had a real hard life. I've been through what I'm from Brooklyn, and I've been through what everybody else has been through, but I never been starving or really. And as far as wanting to deal, I never really worked hard for it. I don't have the average rap story. But as far as relationships, I've been used. You know what I mean? I've been in violent relationships. I'm young. I've been 14 messing with guys 30 years old. What? Years old. Oh, shit. See, that's what I'm saying. It's kind of different. You can't really relate where we're coming from. You would never really understand what we've been through.
Inga always had a love for music and started rapping when she was around 12 years old, inspired by the legendary Roxanne Shante. After school, she would hit local spots, rapping on the open mic circuit. Performing under the name Big Shorty, she even secured a deal with Capitol Records. After some time, she changed her stage name to AKA, but was eventually dropped from the label. Around 1994, when Inga was 15 years old, she was rapping at a local talent contest and caught the attention of Trackmaster's producers Tone and Poke, who were in the audience. The duo was working on LL Cool J's Mr. Smith album and thought Inga would sound great on the Posse Cut remix of I Shot Ya. The night she recorded her verse, she left in a rush because she had an exam at school the next day. But her verse was tight and it made a lasting impression, enough for LL Cool J to want to put it on his album. There was one issue though, her name. AKA just didn't roll off the tongue, so Inga thought it out a bit, until she had a bright idea. Foxy Brown.
Get a mix, the chinks, toe down, we sip drinks, rockin' mix, flashing rings and things.
At 15, Foxy Brown was born and spitting hardcore lyrics on records with rap legends, and she used her new connects to get in contact with another legend as well. Inga didn't want to jack a name without at least asking the originator, so she used her connections to get in touch with Pam Grier and asked if she could be the new rightful owner of the Foxy Brown moniker. Foxy recalled, I was 15 years old and she told me the only way you can have it is if you elevate it. I've done damage to this name. In the 70s, every dude wanted to be with her and every girl wanted to be her. That's the bottom line. She told me, I want you to make your Foxy bigger than my Foxy. Meaning when they say the name Foxy Brown, they think of you and not me. So Foxy took the name and ran with it. Here she was, 15 years old and on top of the world. But she had insecurities that had been plaguing her since adolescence.
Growing up, I mean, I don't know, now it's different, but growing up dark, I know personally that being darker skinned was not like the in thing before growing up. Everybody
Good, bad hair.
Yeah, you know, and everybody was light skinned, and now, I mean, everybody has broken out of that. But when I was younger, I used to be like, wow, you know, I never thought about ever bleaching or doing anything crazy. I just kind of wasn't happy with it. And my mother's, who's really light-skinned, would say to me, to make me feel better, I wish I was dark, and I want to go, let's go to the beach, and I want to get dark. And now I'm fine with it.
Foxy had insecurities about her complexion, but she didn't let that hold her back. By 1995, Foxy was already one of the hottest new artists on the scene. By that time, she had recorded Touch Me, Tease Me with Case and Mary J. Blige for the Nutty Professor soundtrack slated to release the following year. And also that year, she collaborated with someone who would change the trajectory of her career.
Here comes Jay with the white Lexus GS, the rims. That GS was so important, and it almost struggled with us. We were Bonnie and Clyde, and I was his Bonnie. Right.
Foxy met Sean Combs, also known as Jay-Z, when she was around 14 years old through her family friend DJ Clark Kent. Jay-Z had been popular in the underground scene for years and had founded Rockefeller Records after being mentored by Jaz-O. But by '95, Foxy was the more popular artist. People around the city knew that Jay-Z was talented, but no major label wanted to give him a deal. Until she hopped on his single. Foxy Brown was 16 years old when Ain't No was recorded. She spit about things that a teenager wouldn't and shouldn't have known about yet, but Foxy was believable. And for all its raunch and brazen nature, the girl could rhyme. And she hadn't even got a recording contract yet.
Get up, boo, just keep me laced in the illest snakes, bank rolls a whip, back rubs in a French tub.
In an interview with Feds, Foxy said, when Ain't No was poppin', I had to leave recording my album to go on the road with Jay because the promoters wouldn't book him without me. I wasn't getting anything. But it didn't matter. Jay and I really came from Sean and Inga, so it could never be anything but love.
Yeah. Foxy, she's a baby, but she listens to me. You know what I mean? She's tough. You know what I mean? She's a brat, but she listens to me, so it's cool. You know what I mean? Baby girl, she's good. She's cool people.
1996 was an interesting year in rap music. In February of that year, Tupac dropped All Eyes on Me. In June, Jay-Z released Reasonable Doubt. Down in New Orleans, Master P put out Ice Cream Man. And in the fall, an almost 17-year-old girl in Park Slope, New York was in the middle of one of the most intense bidding wars for a female artist at the time. Puffy was calling from Bad Boy. Russell Simmons was calling from Def Jam. Sylvia Rhone was calling from Atlantic. And they all wanted to make Foxy a star. Foxy had finally made it. And in this story, she would be the heroine.
What the hell Nana means. And if you want to let them know, you can let them know. If you don't,
big
come
bro.
on, this is Rap City. We got to.
Oh, man.
You can skip it if you want.
It's some little nickname. Nas gave Nana, and I just threw L in front of it. That's all.
In March of 1996, Def Jam signed a 17-year-old Foxy Brown to their label. By November, her debut album would be released to the public. Il Nana debuted at number 7 on the Billboard 200 album charts. If the title didn't give it away, the album was raw and raunchy, especially for someone so young to be spitting the lyrics. But that seemed to be a trend for female rap in 1996.
Top news, equality between men and women can be achieved in many different ways, and the latest performers in the rap world trying to level the playing field are the Queen Bee of Junior Mafia, Lil Kim, and the Pam Grier-inspired Foxy Brown. Their latest solo albums can either be interpreted as genuine musings on money and sexuality, or just attempts to sell records by explicit exploitation that degrades both artist and listener. You decide.
Across town a week before Il Nana dropped, another Brooklyn MC released her debut album. 22-year-old Lil Kim premiered Hardcore on November 12, 1996. The album debuted at number 11 on the charts, and her and Foxy would prove to be neck and neck in the fight for the top spot in the rap world. It was friendly competition, though, at the time.
Listen, coming up, we got my girl, a joint for my girl. That's right, y'all. Brown, baby. That's right, Fox Brown. New joint coming out, about to hit y'all. Off her new album, we got her first single featuring Blaxploitation. Yeah, y'all, it's the bomb. Check it out. We're going to hit y'all with it in a minute after I find my files in there.
Kim and Foxy were close friends, staying on the phone until daybreak, sharing their dreams and encouraging each other to keep pushing forward. They had a pact to support one another, no matter what. At the time, they were more similar than different. Both ran with tough Brooklyn crews, rapped about sex and money, and were deeply into fashion. Kim even played a pivotal role in Foxy's next big business move, setting her up that would shape her career. At 4 a.m. one morning, Foxy gets a call from Kim. Kim had AZ, fellow rapper, on the other line. He wanted Foxy to spit a few bars for him, to which Kim sat and listened on three-way. AZ liked what he heard, and they exchanged information. The rest was history. Fresh off the success of Il Nana, with its hits like Get You Home and I'll Be, Foxy Brown joined a supergroup.
I'm AZ, representing for the firm.
Foxy Brown, Il Nana.
Yo, the boss of the bosses, Escobar.
The firm consisted of Nas, Foxy, AZ, and Cormega. The firm started out as a song on Nas's It Was Written album titled Affirmative Action. The track was gritty and raw, and rap fans were excited for what was to come from the trio. But Nas was at a crossroads in his career. Having seen how Jay-Z and other rappers had started to cross over, he wanted to move away from the lyrical boom-bap rap he was known for. By the time the album was out, Cormega had been kicked out the group and replaced by Nature. Led by the single firm Biz, featuring Dawn Robinson from En Vogue, the group's debut album was released in 1997 and received mixed reviews and disappointing sales. Fans who were introduced to the crew on Affirmative Action did not vibe with the upbeat pop feel of the album. The firm would disband the following year, but Foxy wasn't fazed by it. She was in love, despite being linked to many men in the industry like Allen Iverson, Master P, and even the one that still sticks to this day, Jay-Z. In 1997, she became engaged to West Coast rapper Corrupt.
She with the firm and Nas and them, you know what I mean? I'm from the pound, you know, even when we get in arguments, we found ourselves throwing our little crews in here. I didn't even got to the point where my woman, I was like throwing a beat, I'll serve you right now. And she like, what's happening? And that's what I love about her, man. She is, and I quote unquote, and I say she is the greatest female rapper of all times. Oh, no She doubt. Writes her rhymes.
She became the doting fiancé, skipping shows and other obligations to be with him and always by his side. In other words, the honey.
So men love it, and it does sell records. And then you get some heat from women sometimes. There's Brandy in the article said, and I'll try to read through this really quickly because I want you to comment on this because I thought this was kind of tough, you know? Quote, "It bothers me that African-American girls get on their albums and call themselves hoes and bitches. I don't like that. I don't want to put Foxy out there by herself because a lot of people do it, but I have a problem with that. Why are you calling yourself a hoe? To go platinum? That's your life, but come on, if that's your life, I think you'd like to keep that private." That's tough.
Well, in response to that statement, I think that was way off. Number one, I don't get in records calling myself a hoe. Number one, I don't do that. So, I mean, yes, I have explicit lyrics, but if I don't agree with what Brandy does, what she does to sell records is what she does. I might not think her popcorn schoolgirl image is
cool either, but I would never comment on that. I respect everybody for what they do and how they make their money.
Right.
So.
The February 1997 issue of The Source would feature Foxy and her friend Lil Kim on the cover. Funny enough, the title of the cover featured the question harlots or heroines. Having the two poster children for raunchy female rap on the same cover was a direct response to the criticism women rappers, especially these two, had been getting at the time. Foxy and Kim represented an entirely new era for rap, an era where women boldly and explicitly voiced their desires and needs. This shift challenged the norms and expectations of the industry, pushing boundaries and redefining what it meant to be a female rapper. The men had been objectifying women in their rhymes for over a decade, and it was time to take their power back. Plus, sex sells. Kim and Foxy were each offered $500,000 to do a joint Thelma and Louise-themed album. But sometime between the cover shoot and being propositioned for the album, the two stopped speaking to each other. Kim Osario, former editor-in-chief of The Source, would say, "I've gotten mixed versions of the story. One story that I remember was the album packaging. If you go back to both of their debut albums, you will notice they have on the same outfit. I remember hearing that one had borrowed the outfit from the other, and that led to them not speaking. Whatever the reason, it seemed trivial to everyone around." Foxy stated the beef didn't start between her and Kim personally, but rather the people around them. And when Foxy eventually was persuaded to go to the studio to record her parts for the album, Kim never showed up.
She said that I left in the cold in '98. She had an album out with The Firm in '97. What am I like I'm the battered husband, like I'm gonna stay in the house and not get a artist. But I wasn't even like upset about it. It wasn't like, yo, you down with The Firm, you can't mess with me, da-da-da. I was like, we still gonna do records. After that, after I got Amil, it was tension.
Oh, what Amil?
Oh, man, it was tension. Like we couldn't go nowhere. Like their whole girl clique was fighting. Their whole girl clique was fighting. This girl, this is Amil. She's signed to me at the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You signed to The Firm, you signed to Def Jam, you signed to, whatever. What am I supposed to do with this? I'm supposed to just kick her to the curb?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I had to ride with my girl.
Foxy and Jay-Z had become sort of sparring partners in rap. By 1998, they had exchanged bars in multiple records like I'll Be and Sunshine. They were hip-hop's Bonnie and Clyde. Kim had Biggie, and she had Jay. There was some buzz on them doing some sort of joint album together, but that all quieted down when in the fall of 1998, Jay had introduced to the world a new girl that was running with his crew. Amil was featured on Jay-Z's 1998 lead single for his Volume 2 album, and by 1999 signed to Jay's label Rockefeller Records. Feeling replaced and hurt, Foxy would say, "It hurts when I see him because I want to hug him, but it doesn't feel the same. He signed Amil and tried to replace me, but it got laughed at. It's hard for female rappers. You can't only look good. People got to also believe you. It's a whole package that goes with it." Foxy and Jay-Z's relationship would be strained for years due to this.
I look at you all the time
In
in
the
Times
TV?
Square.
Oh, how you doing?
I drive past you every morning.
In 1999, Foxy Brown was 21 years old and on her second album. China Doll would be her most successful body of work yet, debuting at #1 on the US Billboard 200, making her the second female rapper to do so behind Lauryn Hill. To promote her album, Foxy landed herself on the cover of Vibe, where the journalist Danielle Smith detailed much about Foxy's relationship and quoted her saying some not-so-nice things about Kim. Foxy allegedly found Smith in a restaurant and tried to assault her, claiming that she wrote things that were untrue in the article.
I'm gonna tell you I was scared. And it's Foxy. And she's got 4 people with her. Foxy's from Brooklyn. I mean, I live in Brooklyn and I love Brooklyn, but Foxy's from Brooklyn.
Also in 1999, Corrupt would call off their engagement due to rumors that Foxy had an affair with DMX. This would spark a beef that spanned years between Foxy and the Philadelphia-bred female rapper, Eve, who was rumored to have told Corrupt about DMX and Foxy's dealings.
Stop trying to sound like
During this time, Lil Kim and her crew would begin sending subliminal shots Foxy's way in their records, and fans immediately caught on that the jabs were aimed at Foxy. In November of 2000, Foxy would fire back on the Capone and Noriega track Bang Bang.
Your album pushed back, and when it hit the streets, bitch, it's still weak. It still sound lame, and my name still ring.
Then, in 2001, at the Hot 97 radio station, there was a confrontation between Lil Kim and Capone from Capone and Noriega's camps. In the midst of a scuffle, shots would ring out, causing one person to sustain gunshot wounds. Foxy wasn't at the February Hot 97 incident. She was dealing with other, more personal matters. In December of 2000, she checked herself into the Cornell University Medical College to undergo rehabilitation treatment for an addiction to painkillers.
To I don't know, everything. Everybody has their own, you know, thing that they turn to help. You know, it might not be the right thing, but you don't know when you're involved in it. Sometimes you have to step outside of your circle and then look at it for what it really is.
Well,
and
in
that's
knowing
what I
that,
had to do.
and in knowing that the first road, the first step to helping yourself is admitting it. So without saying it, it's obvious that you've seen the light and you're working on it. So we'll leave it at that.
Definitely.
But even through her own personal turmoil, she offered to call a truce with Kim, knowing that the beef had gone too far. But Lil Kim, ever loyal to her crew, refused. She would spend a year and a day in jail for lying under oath about what she knew about the incident on the stand. In 2001, Foxy would release Broken Silence, her third album. The first single of the album, Oh Yeah, would feature her then-boyfriend Spragga Benz. The album debuted at number 5 and would go on to be certified gold, a slight departure from her first 2 platinum records. The early 2000s were a challenging time for Foxy. She was in constant dispute with the head of the label Leor Cohen and accused him and Sean Combs of both illegally trading her recording masters. By 2002, she would create her own joint venture record label with Def Jam called Il Nana Entertainment. She started up the label with her brothers, but in 2 years they hadn't signed any artists. She also accused Leor of sabotaging her 4th album Il Nana 2, due to his personal issues with her. This caused her to leave Def Jam in 2004.
So, is this going to be an all right environment for you to be in? Let's just say if Jay telling you what you can and can't do on the label, is that going to be an issue?
Again, like I said, I trust him 100% with my career. Anybody that knows me knows that I would never have made that move if I didn't think carefully about it. And when Jay told me he was contemplating on taking the job at Def Jam, I was like, oh, Jay, come on. And he's like, you got to see the bigger picture. You got to understand, you're going to be all right if I'm there. And again, I trust him, and there's not too many people that I trust because I've been in the business since I was 15.
How long?
By 2005, Jay-Z was retired. He was done with rap and ready to be a full-time executive. He was hired to be the new president and CEO of Def Jam Records in December of 2004. The first person he called when he got the gig was Foxy. He wanted her back on the label and promised that he was going to push her album and get her back to the top, where she belonged. They had recently reconciled their years-long strain and had their first performance together in years for his legendary Fade to Black concert. Foxy was excited. They were doing press to celebrate the reunion, radio interviews, and photo shoots. They were even on the cover of XXL magazine, along with Kanye West and LeBron to celebrate this new Def Jam regime. Foxy was finally getting out of the rut she was in and back home with family. She had begun recording music for her new project, including the song Come Fly With Me with SZA. In June of 2005, the morning after shooting the spread for XXL, Foxy Brown woke up. And nothing. She couldn't hear anything. The TV was on, but no sound was coming out. She tried honking the horn. She tried calling people. Nothing. It was the morning of her aunt's funeral, and she couldn't even hear the choir.
In May 2005, my life was altered drastically. But I've discovered in your darkest hour, the confusion that shrouds your daily existence can become overwhelming. During the recording of my new album, Black Roses, I was diagnosed with sudden severe hearing loss. As time passed,
Foxy experienced sudden hearing loss, which impacted her tremendously. But she was a fighter. Foxy used a hearing aid to help cope with the loss of her hearing. And she kept recording, having someone tap the beat on her shoulder so she could keep up. In June of 2006, her hearing was miraculously mostly restored. And while dealing with all this, she was fighting to keep herself out of jail. I'm not going to go over all her cases, or we'd be here a while, but in 2007 she was sentenced to 1 year in prison for violating her probation for a 2004 nail salon incident, in which it's alleged that she attacked 2 manicurists. In October of that year, she was sentenced to 76 days in solitary confinement due to a fight with another prisoner. She was taken out of solitary after 35 days for good behavior, and she was released from prison on April 18, 2008. About a year after being released, she was accused of assaulting and mooning her neighbor. Yeah, you heard that right. She was arrested in July of 2010, but eventually the charges were dropped. Legal issues had plagued Foxy since 1997, when in that year she was arrested and charged with failing to appear after being accused of assaulting and spitting on 2 hotel employees in Raleigh, North Carolina. Foxy had a temper, you see. and everyone in the industry knew about it. She had a reputation for being a diva and wasn't ashamed of it, but her anger and reputation had become detrimental as she moved up in her career. Foxy was in the news time and time again, and eventually when you heard her name it was almost never about music anymore. It's hard not to wonder why this woman who had the world at her fingertips would constantly be making these mistakes. She had starred in movies, had platinum records, but she wasn't truly happy. Not to mention that stint in rehab in 2000, and to top it off, she hadn't put out any new music in years. It left fans wondering what happened to the Foxy Brown we knew. But how can we blame her for making mistakes? She grew up in front of our eyes, transforming from a 15-year-old girl to a grown woman, and while most of us learn our lessons privately, she took all her licks in front of us.
The same way she inspired every other female. I mean, you know what I'm saying? She always held her own with the dudes, you know what I'm saying?
While Foxy was away, a new female rapper emerged. Nicki Minaj was a Trinidadian-born, Queens-bred rapper who always shouted out Fox as her main inspiration, even if some people begged to differ.
Let me tell you something. I'm going to leave this on this note. You will see. Everything in the dark comes to the light. That's all I got to say.
And don't forget...
After being released from prison, Foxy mostly spent time away from music to focus on herself and becoming a new mom, but she's still remembered as one of the best to ever do it. In August 2018, Foxy Brown marked her first feature in over a decade on Nicki Minaj's Queen album, appearing on the track Coco Chanel, and fans were excited to hear that the Il Nana hadn't lost her touch. And in 2020, Foxy would link back up with the firm on Nas's King's Disease album, generating buzz for a potential reunion. Through it all, Foxy Brown has managed to carve out her own legacy, becoming an icon not just in hip-hop but in the broader cultural landscape. Just as Pam Grier's Foxy Brown was a symbol of empowerment in the 1970s, Inga Marchand's Foxy Brown has become a symbol of female strength and independence in modern music. Her story is a testament to the fact that women can embody multiple roles and still rise to the top, unapologetically owning their power and place in history. And whether she's a harlot or heroine, I'll let you be the judge of that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.